Hi, everybody. Welcome to our show today. We are talking to that energy guy, David Arms, and we are talking about protection. Do we really need spiritual protection, or can we just stand in our own power? Welcome to Ascension and 5D Chat, where we discuss what is happening with our planet's ascension journey. I am Rachel Chamness. I help lightworkers connect to their spiritual helpers and light path. Thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So let's talk about this. This is a great point of interest. So I have taught spiritual protection for years. It's all over my YouTube page, how to do spiritual protection. And for the last year or so, I've been getting that it's not really necessary because we are protected, or we can just know that we are asking. Once we ask for protection, it's just there. But I feel it's also complicated and has many layers. And I like what you say about it. So let's talk about that.
All right. Well, my perspective on it, we are immaculate, powerful spiritual beings in the beginning. So from that perspective, you have to understand you have the power. The key is getting it, I want to say exposing it, getting back to it. It's all perspective, really. But when you think about needing to protect yourself from things that you're already above, seems kind of redundant to me to spend all your time chasing after protection, because that's actually living in fear. And to me, that challenges you again when it comes down to the things that you're supposed to be able to do. It challenges your faith in who you are and what you are. I think back on my raising. I was raised Baptist, so that whole having faith in God and all those elements of that, pieces come up that were taught in the religious part of my life that fit perfectly with the spiritual side of it, with or without religion. And it's kind of mind-blowing. Of course, religion is about the spiritual side of us. It's just, it also kind of, to me, it blinds us from a lot of things. It kind of pushes us to put our faith in other places. So it's like when you start having trouble, you have to run to the preacher to find out, what do I do about this? How do I fix this? Whatever. And in reality, we're on top of all this. We're actually the power. We're the authority, second to the creator.
I used to have a friend that would say the difference between religion and spirituality is that in religion, there's a middleman. And you don't need that middleman, which is so true. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And it's kind of mind-blowing. The work that I'm doing, when I first started doing it, I was sort of feeling like the middleman. And then I got to realizing people just didn't know. And because they didn't know, they had to figure it out somewhere. And I had a buddy, I was sharing pieces and parts of what I'm doing with him. And at one point he just stopped me and he said, dude, you have challenged every belief I've ever had. And he says, but it feels right. And that was like a confirmation for me that things were, I want to say, correct, or at least in the zone. My goal is to teach you how to connect with the creator, not to be your go-to guy to talk to the creator for you. So my goal is to empower you. That's my understanding. That's why I came this round. It was for empowerment, and not empowerment of me, empowerment of other people. Although I have to be empowered in order to empower people. It's kind of a catch-22. But learning all the beliefs, all the rules, as we'll call it, the way society has taught you how you're supposed to be and how you can't be and can be, and all that. When you recognize that pretty much everything you've been told, and you've got to look at this from a really stretched out perspective, but pretty much everything you've been told ever is a lie as far as what is and what isn't. We're looking at it, one of the big things that jumps in my perspective when I'm looking at this is how caught up we are in technologies, how caught up we are in having the newest and greatest and, whatever, because that'll make you happy. And the reality is, if you're not happy on the inside, all that crap on the outside is going to be a very temporary happy. You'll be looking for the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. So by shifting and going inside and trying to be happy with yourself and the things that you know and the things you can do, of course, most people don't have a clue what they can do. But as you start to understand the power that you have, it changes that whole happy thing. I look at some of the things I've done and it just blows my mind. Never would have dreamed I could do some of the things that I've done, because that's not stuff we can do. That's not real. But even looking back at the biblical text, the concept behind all of it, I don't fully have the history, the understanding, but I do know that there's a lot of truths in it. I think it's been manipulated a lot, but there are a lot of truths. And one of the comments that Jesus had made one time, he said, why are you in awe of what I do? You can do this and so much more. I grabbed that one and go, that's so close to dead on with what I'm seeing happen. Every time I think I've hit a plateau, I can't go any higher, than something else kicks me up another notch, and I'm doing something even more out there beyond our reach. And it's really cool to just watch the changes. But you have to let go of the I can'ts and be open to the possibility of I can. You don't have to believe you can. Just be open to the possibility. Once you open that door, it's like things just start happening. I've heard it for years. If you think you can't, guess what? You can't.
You can.
And it really is about what you think. Our beliefs control everything. When I first started doing this, I thought it was beyond anything. I thought there was something hidden. I was just doing energy work. I thought there was something else I just hadn't tripped over yet. And in reality, I just hadn't fully stepped into it. When you ask yourself, can I be healed? And you just think in terms of, I see Joe over here and Jenny and Kim and whoever, they're all getting healed. Well, sure I can. If they can, I can. But if we really sit down and dig in and ask deep inside, do you really feel like you can be healed? If you don't have a yes coming out of that, and guess what's going on? We'll call it self-sabotage, although you don't realize it's usually a self-worth issue. Something tells you you're not good enough to be healed or be healthy or whatever it is. And that's another piece of this whole empowerment. When you realize, it's like following my training, when you walk through it, you first look at it, you go, oh my God, there's so much stuff. Well, the thing about so much stuff is it's all right there on paper. You don't have to remember it. If you just follow the chart, it's simple stuff. But all of those things are weighing you down. They're keeping you from being true to yourself. It interferes with a lot of knowing. There's a lot of stuff that it does. And for me, it takes away your power. So when you look at it and you go in and you start asking questions and you're saying, oh my God, I've got this, I got that, I got all these things I got to release. Well, if you start by looking at how old you are and say, how many years have I been putting crap in my energy field? And, I look back when I had a shop one time, and it was like 5 years of constant headaches and people trying to, get what they could get from you and just all this stuff. And I stayed agitated most of the time. And I think about how much stuff I put in my energy field during just that 5 years. Didn't include all the previous stuff. So yes, you've got a lot of stuff in your energy field unless you've really been working on it.
Also notice that there's like this point of you realize you're doing this thing. And now that you realize it, now you see how much you are doing it. And most people at that level go, well, it's just impossible. I'm doing it all the time. I can't stop. But it's really that now you're seeing it. Now that you see it, you can stop it. There's like, it's a short period of time where it's completely illuminated to you so that you can stop it. But sometimes people go to the worst place, like, that's it. I can't do it. I can't stop it. But it's just now you see it. Now you can release it.
Right. And if you understand, pretty much everything is emotional based. So if you've got a habit, let's say you got a habit of You're always going to the wrong place. You're always thinking the wrong thought, whatever it is. You can actually go in and release on that. So
let's talk about protection. So what do you think about people who are afraid that they are going to be targeted as a being of light by lower vibrational energies? And those things do happen. I teach people techniques. I have for years and years taught people techniques to avoid that. But there's a lot more learning past that, which is just to know that you are protected, just to know that you have the power to prevent anything like that. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, for me, I'd go back and say it's not that you are protected, it's that you are protection.
You are protection.
You are the protection. When you understand that everything that comes to you has to do with the law of attraction in the first place.
Yes.
So everything that's in your energy field is attracting like energies.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting things coming to you that you don't like, and let's say that your fear is being persecuted by beings of the dark side, or whatever term you want to use for all that stuff, then you need to look in your energy field and see what's in there that needs to come out so that you don't attract that crap.
Okay.
The more light you are, the less they can do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that picture. And when it goes back to the truth kind of speaks for itself, defends itself.
Well, I did go through this period of time where I had a lot of problems with some spiritual protection. And what I basically did to stop it was I cleared up some things in my energy field. And then I just felt that my vibration was higher and that it just wouldn't bother me anymore. And that's what happened.
Yep. And that's a reality. For me, the more I get out of my energy field, the higher I do vibrate. And of course, you go back and reset your frequency and your vibration once you've done a session or whatever you want to call it, and got things out of your energy field. You go back and adjust all that so that as you're releasing things, you're empowering yourself. It does a lot of things. To me, it's freaking awesome at all the things that it does for you. But when you think about it, if it doesn't do anything but make the random crazy energies that are just floating around, it helps keep them from sticking, attaching, whatever term you want.
And I think that is a thing that happens. It's like they stick, or with your empathic nature, you pick up someone else's vibration and then that sticks. I kind of feel like it's slime, like you get slimed all over your work field.
Yeah. Well, it's all perspective, and different people feel things different ways. I don't feel any of that. So, it's nothing to me, but I do work on a lot of people that do feel it, and I do things like putting a grid on to help keep you from being so overly empathic that the people affect you. It's one thing to sense it. It's a whole nother to be overwhelmed by it.
Well, no, okay. So I really believe that saying you're an empath versus understanding your clairaudience is two different things. Getting stuck in that whole victimhood of I am a empath, therefore I can't help it, but everyone's emotions stick to me and I have to deal with other people's emotions all the time, or saying if I wish, I can feel other people's emotions so that I can help them with my clairsentience, is a place of standing in your power versus, oh, I have no power, I just have this problem and I can't fix it. So I think there's like, even though those two words make a huge difference, like you can be empathic, but you don't have to be stuck in that. It can just be a tool.
Well, one of the things that I do is I put a grid around people to help cut down on how much of that hits them. So it kind of blocks them.
Yeah, it's similar to something I teach, light.
Yeah, I consider it sort of a filter, but it adjusts as you need it adjusted most of the time, unless you screw it up. If you literally screw it up, that's a whole nother thing. But I keep expecting it to go over and stop.
Yes, this is just the tail coming back and forth.
But when you're looking at being an empath, I've had numerous people tell me, well, I don't like it, and I don't see what's the use in it. And, they go through all that negative crap. It's like, you chose this before you came in.
Yeah.
Figure out what you're supposed to do with it. Don't chew it up and spit it out and get mad. The reality is, if you're an empath and you sense things in other people, then the the proper way, so far, everything has indicated that the proper way to deal with this is you should basically let your compassion go to them for whatever it is that's going on with them, and recognize that whatever you're capable of doing for them, that's what you're doing. So your energy is going and helping them with whatever it is that you're feeling in that empathic wave that you took on. And that's your part of your role here. We're all supposed to be, again, basically in service to everyone else.
Kind of shows a healer's nature, I think.
Yeah. And if you want it, realistically, if you buck something, you're never going to get the results that something is supposed to bring to you. So if you keep fighting it, it's like the more resistance you put in, the tougher the lesson's going to be, and
the longer it's going to take.
Oh yeah, it can get pretty ugly. But again, realistically, from my understanding, by being an empath, you're here to help other people. The problem is your mom and dad didn't sit you down when you were 3 or 4 and you were feeling all this stuff and help you understand what you're supposed to do with it. So thus you didn't grow in it. It just sort of like kept building on you until you're just overwhelmed and you don't know what to do, and everything overwhelms you.
Yeah.
And then you become sensitive, and there's all these other variables of stuff that happens.
Or you could grow up in generations of, suck it up.
yeah. Then there's that.
That's not for you. Don't act that way.
Yep.
And it can be very confusing.
Well, it's been interesting watching people that I've helped, or just that I've dealt with, that were caught up in things like that. And I mean, a friend of mine worked at Aveda for a while, and the students, we kind of dealt with a lot of the students, and they were young girls for the most part. And they were caught up in all of this crap that the world has thrown out there that you're supposed to be as a female.
Yeah.
So, there's how you're supposed to look, how you're supposed to act, what you're supposed to wear, all the variables of all of that stuff. And then they're caught up in this wave of all the new energies coming in that's trying to free us up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they're caught between that and they don't know what to do with either one. So anyhow, most of them were feeling everybody else's stuff and thinking it was theirs the whole time. And once we get the grid on them, then they're sitting back going, wow, that's familiar, but that was not actually mine.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm. But trying to learn, that's another thing. You almost have to go back and teach how to get past that. What do you do now that you know it's not yours?
That was my question. So what we're talking about is coming to a place where, things aren't bothering you, but what do you do if you're not there yet?
Well, looking at it, really and truly, it's a tough battle to get where you need to be without some kind of help,
mm-hmm.
where the empath thing is concerned. But if you can differentiate between whose energy it is that you're feeling and be able to see what you're supposed to be able to do, from my understanding, let's say it was you and I'm noticing your energies and you've got some depression or something similar going on with you, and I sense that. Well, I should intend to assist you with that. Whatever level my energy can do it, I intend to let that happen and then let go of the problem. And more often than not, that energy that I'm feeling will shift and it won't be in my face anymore. I could look for it and find it, but it won't be right there. But then, of course, the next thing pops up. Whoever the next person is, or the next energy, or
mm-hmm.
Whatever it is. So the key is to start learning to differentiate, try to figure out what it is you're feeling and whose.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting is everybody's a little different. So it may have to be somebody in your household. It may have to be somebody that you're with at school, or romantic thing, whatever it may have to be. But then again, you may have that connection to somebody you've not seen in eons, but you still have a connection with them, because everybody's a little different. I find it interesting how personalities change how we actually react to stuff. Even though it's exactly the same as Bob over here, his personality is who gives a crap? And yours is like, oh, and the way that all interacts with us is so different. So you have to find your own place to stand and be able to look at things and try to figure out what's going on. And it's a process. Don't expect it to happen just like that, because it won't. Usually it won't. It takes some exploring and trying to understand things, and at least sitting quiet. One of the keys for most people is meditation.
Yeah.
When you understand that meditation can be as simple as counting your breaths.
I do a lot of really small, short meditations where it's just quiet and just.
You've got to get this thing still. When you hear my talks, more often than not, I'll tell you, don't pay attention to this troublemaker, because that's what it is.
A collective thought.
Mm-hmm. Most people just turn their mind loose. They don't understand it's not really supposed to be in charge.
Well, and that it's not really you. I mean, you are the consciousness that hears the thought,
Mm-hmm.
and you can decide if that thought has merit or not. Sometimes we get so caught up with these things we hear in our heads, but they're not. You don't have to give them any thought at all. Oh, that's not me.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Throw it away.
The key to standing in your own power is recognizing you have it, and then trying to figure out, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? And for me, recognizing that it doesn't really matter what other people think, because whether you hear what they think or not, they still have their own thoughts. They still have their own perspectives and whatever. So it's like, no matter who you are and what you are, somebody is talking bad about you. And it has nothing to do with who you are and what you are necessarily. I mean, they might look at you and don't like your hair color or your lips or your eyes, or you remind them of somebody. There's so many things we use to pull judgment, because that's what we do best as humans, is pull judgment.
Yeah.
To me, it's really interesting when we sit back and look at how much people will take words that somebody said and try to manipulate them into something negative just because they don't like that person, or they don't feel like going along with the crowd, or whatever is going on with them. But again, when you reach a point where you don't really care what other people think, and that's not I don't give a crap about anybody. It's not one of those I don't care. I'm not doing anything intentionally to upset people, and if they get upset, it's of their own doing, not because of me.
Right.
So
that
why
people
would
have
I?
Their own filters, and it's not your problem.
Right. So why should I get caught up in what they're turning it into? If you and I are having a conversation and I say something about your sweater, maybe I don't like it. Maybe it's the colors. Who knows? I do like it, I'm just saying. But
it's okay if you don't.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. But when you understand that we like to take that crap and turn it into something, meaning something about us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really all about me. Whatever I said was about me.
Mm-hmm.
If I make a judgment call, it's still really about me. It's not about whatever I'm judging. It's about my thoughts on it.
That's true.
You don't ever know. And to me,
we are all just our experiences.
Mm-hmm. The whole thing for me is, when you pull judgment, you need to wait on pulling judgment until you've been in their shoes and been in their head. When you've been in both places, then you can judge whatever they were doing. Till then, you need to leave it alone. And since we'll never be in their head and probably never be in their shoes, and that whole shoe thing, so you can't leave it at just being in their shoes, because you can have 20 people watch something happen and then get each one of them's account of what happened, and there'll be variations all the way through it.
That's true. Yeah.
And they all saw the same thing. So recognizing being in their shoes doesn't fix it. You also have to be in here and figure out what it is they were thinking when they went through whatever they went through. One of the things that I throw out there, if you look at financial issues, let's say you reach a point where you're broke, they're going to take your house, they're going to come get your car, whatever. If you don't do something, And you're sitting back going, okay, of all the options that I have, what should I do? And then you start counting them. And you've got a limited few things that you could do. One of them is probably not to rob a bank. You probably won't go rob a 7-Eleven and risk going to the pen for $1,000. So anyway, looking at everybody's got their own thing, but there are people out there that would see robbing a bank as a viable option. Well, what's going on in their head that they would see that as a viable option compared to yours, where you're sitting back going, well, I'll talk to mom and dad, I'll talk to my grandmother, I'll talk to the church, I'll talk to. If they wouldn't do that, they would rather rob a bank than to, I guess, get personal with the family even. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many variables with people, but just recognizing everybody has their own reason for making their decision. And the thing that I see is the more empowered I become, the more I can stand in my own power, and the more power I have to put energies into place to make things happen. So it's really cool when you learn how to manipulate things energy-wise to make a better outcome for everybody. Now, there are plenty of people out there manipulating it for themselves. And the day is going to come where everyone's going to be aware that they're doing this. So their days of being able to manipulate everybody else's existence is coming to an end. It's just...
That's what this show is all about.
It is. It is. But standing in your own power to me is speaking your truth.
Mm-hmm.
And not backing down because you're afraid somebody's going to not like it or whatever. Looking at protection again, you think about it, everything that happens to you because of basically your beliefs, but also the energies that are in your energy field, which are based on past beliefs,
mm-hmm.
whether they're present or not. And getting things out of your energy field that have made that law of attraction concept start
mm-hmm.
working, getting things out that don't apply. Realistically, if you've got anything, I want to go as far as to say, from my perspective, if you got anything attracting anything to you, you need to get it out. There's no such thing as you've got something in your energy field actually attracting good stuff, because you are good stuff. So you don't need something attracting. You already have it.
So if there's something attracting bad things, then
you need to figure out what it is.
Yeah.
And get it out.
Well, that's actually perfect, because that's what we should be doing. When something bad happens, it's not, why is this bad thing happening to me? But what is this trying to teach me? What is there that I'm supposed to see, that I'm supposed to look at, that I'm supposed to clear, that I'm supposed to work on, that this is happening. That's the answer to everything, I think.
Yeah.
It's finding that what needs to be cleared, what needs to be.
I want to say awareness.
Yeah.
Just having an awareness of what's going on. So to me, one of the biggest words, the most powerful word, is awareness. We were talking about intents. I was talking about it with a friend of mine the other day, and she's trying to figure out what to do to change a lot of things that are going on. And she's putting paperwork into place to make things happen. And I'm like, so you're wanting to know what intent to use. So we're looking at this and trying to figure it out. And I was told nothing but awareness, because the goal is awareness. And when you understand that if everybody on the planet was aware of everything going on that they should know about, things wouldn't be going the way they're going.
Right.
If you understood that something you're doing is creating havoc down the street, and then that's rippling over into the middle of the town, and why would you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you start to have an awareness of, I won't say right and wrong, but probably fall
what's good
more
energy
into
and what's bad energy.
Yeah, I'm thinking moral. what's morally right,
Mm-hmm.
But that whole picture of awareness, to me, awareness is key. Getting to the point where we understand things and the repercussions and whatever But when you understand that your goal should be awareness, your intention for your life should be awareness. And I'm saying awareness in terms of total awareness. You just don't really need the word total in there. But keeping it simple, that's another thing. I've always been told to keep it simple. So using just the word awareness, it's kind of like setting you on a path toward awareness of everything. I know for me, if you intend to create nothing negative for anyone or anything, including yourself. Well, I had somebody come up the other day with, well, what if you don't use the word negative?
That was me.
Yeah. And you throw that one out there and go, well, how would you reword that? I intend to create only positive. So that's a reality, although the mass of the world is still caught up in the concept of negative. Mm-hmm. So it's a doable thing because it fits with most people's thinking. And again, I don't know if it would have really popped in my head to change the wording for the new way we're seeing things. Mm-hmm. If you hadn't brought it up, or somebody else somewhere might have eventually. Mm-hmm. But that's part of what I'm talking about. When you set your intention for things like that to happen, pieces and parts just come to the surface or into your face or however you want to view it so that you become aware of it. And then here's another change. Here's something else I need to shift out of my energy field or whatever. So,
that's very interesting. I have noticed lately that it's very obvious when something needs to be shifted or released out. It's like now, especially lately, and maybe it's the work I've been doing with you and learning your method, perhaps that's it. But I feel like I want to create simplicity. Like it needs to be easy and in flow. And if things aren't easy and they're not in flow, the situation is so difficult, then I realize, that this is not, I'm not in alignment with this. So I'm not going to do that anymore. And a few things I've had to cut out because just didn't feel, it was just impossible to get it in flow. So it obviously wasn't something I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
It's just, now it's like so easy. I don't have to go through the whole, oh my gosh, this is exhausting, but like, ooh, I can see this is too much trouble. This is not in flow by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Deep six.
Yeah.
Going. A lot of the stuff that I've been doing, it's like, it's opening up awarenesses of so many things for me. And when you recognize that most of what you're doing is based on your pre-programming, whether it be before you came in or after you came in, but most of it's after. They used to always say, you need to put your jacket on, you're going to catch a death of cold. As you go outside, it's like, that's not how you get a cold.
It's not how you get a cold. It is hard not to say that to your children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if you look at them now and you go, yeah, you'll be back in a few minutes. You'll want that coat. I'll try to get you to take it.
Mine does not come back in for a coat, though. He defies all.
You go out there and pick him up off the ground frozen. Have to bring him
in.
Thaw him out.
I'm totally warm. And he's like frozen.
Yeah. It's amazing. So going back to protection. Mm-hmm. Protection is about being above it, not protected from it.
Right.
You are already protected from it. You just have to get it out of your field. And when you're looking at standing in your own power, the whole standing in your own power thing it's just a matter of being able to speak your mind and not being caught up in what people are going to say. Realistically, we should be able to talk about whatever and not be caught up in this, let's get angry and, all the stupid that seems to be going around with that. Because it doesn't matter if they tell you or not. I'd much rather you tell me what you're thinking and us have a chance to talk about it if it doesn't fit with what I'm thinking, as opposed to have you behind my back doing crap.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's happening with most of the world.
I find it exhausting that there's like topics you can't talk about. Mm-hmm. Like, why can't we just talk about it?
Right.
And there's so much that we need to release of this society and what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do and what we're supposed to believe, what we're not supposed to believe, and so many things, like you said in the beginning, that we are taught that are completely untrue. And I think the way to do that is to begin to open your mind by saying anything is possible. I'm going to look at this as if anything is possible and not throw everything out and say, oh, that can't be true. I was told something else, and as an exercise, I think it's important.
Yeah, one of the things that I've heard said many times is take what resonates.
Yeah.
Let the rest go. You don't have to throw it away, because what I find interesting is the things that didn't resonate with me 15 years ago, a lot of them started resonating, and most of them resonate now, and there's even new stuff coming up. It's just a constant growth.
Yeah, perhaps you're watching this whole thing and almost all of it really resonates. One part doesn't. Forget that one part, but maybe later you'll see it from a different perspective and say, oh, now when you say it that way, now I understand, now that resonates. Sometimes the way you hear things triggers something else, or it doesn't come across quite exactly in the right intention, and you may not get it that time, but maybe you hear it a few more times a different way. You never know.
Yep.
Or maybe it just will never resonate because it's not going to.
Yeah, you never know. But I do find it interesting how somebody will say, well, I've been hearing this. I've heard it 3 or 4 different times from other people and it didn't make sense. But then when you said it, it's like it just clicked.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've said it numerous times and they didn't get it until someone else said something similar and then it clicked, And it's just a matter. Sometimes we use just the right wording or just the right tone, or
maybe it's
whatever.
just the right person.
Yep, just
it's
the right
so
person.
Funny when you do that thing where you like try to help someone who's like related to you. Mm-hmm. Even though you help everyone else, that person doesn't want your help. You may tell them the same thing 100 times, and then one day someone else will tell them. They'll come back to you and say, and do you know what she said to me, and it just changed my life. And you're like, I've said that 40 times. Mm-hmm. I've literally told you that so many times.
Yeah, and I try to not get caught up in the me part of that one. I try to still view it as, hey, they finally got it. How cool, mm-hmm. Growth.
Well, it's harder when you're related, I think.
Oh yeah. Or friends, I've got a buddy that talks about his son, how this one particular thing that he'd been trying to teach him to do, the kid went off for the weekend with one of his buddies, and when he came back, he said, guess what so-and-so's dad taught me how to do? And it was the very thing he had been teaching him,
That's exactly right.
Yeah, he says, I taught you that before you left. But he apparently didn't quite get it. So now you see whose tail was running.
Yes.
But again, standing in your power is important, and understanding that you are the protection. Step out of your own way. Get out of your own way. Learn to do whatever you need to do to clear yourself. So,
well, tell everybody about your amazing technique, the holistic wellness alignment that you teach.
All right. Well, it started with BEST. Like I said, I took BEST. It was just basic BEST, but I took BEST because I had a chiropractor using it on me, and I got curious. What's he doing? So I took the training, and it's hard to explain. It had a lot of potential, but I was using it one day, and I think I told that story earlier. I got the loud and clear, there's a better way. So I started kind of looking into that. Well, it started growing and changing. So I'm being told all these different aspects that BEST was teaching to let that go. And then it started guiding me into intentions and a handful of other things. And next thing I know, I'm being told by numerous people that I worked on that I need to be teaching this stuff. So I started looking at it and started questioning spirit, because that really wasn't, being a teacher really wasn't on my list of things, it wasn't my bucket list by no means. But
wasn't mine either, but I guess it was.
Well, it's kind of interesting because I do enjoy it. As I've gone through little by little, I've been giving new pieces, new ways of looking at it, things to do. And it kind of fits in with what Dr. Mortar had happen with him.
Who is Dr. Mortar?
Dr. Mortar, M.T. Mortar Jr. If you look him up on the internet, really, if you look up BEST, B period, E period, S period, T period, look that up, and there'll be a connection somewhere through all that. His kids are doing it now. He passed a number of years ago. But one of his things, he would share this story. He was helping people, had a really thriving practice, and I want to think he used the term helping about 80% of the people that would come to him. Mm-hmm. And he's sitting back going, you know, that's not enough. We should be doing 100%. We should be helping everybody. Why are we not helping everybody? And he just sort of threw his hands up and was like, you know, I quit, or, you know, something. And shortly after that, he woke up in the middle of the night with an idea, and he got to thinking about it. He ended up going back to sleep, and he got up the next morning and went to the office, and he actually tried that technique, whatever that was, a little piece of something. He tried it, and it worked on every single person that he worked on. So, of course, he goes to bed that night, all anxious and hoping, you know, and at some point, I don't remember how many nights later it was, but he woke up to another piece. And he woke up and he thought about it a minute, and that might work. So he went back to sleep. Well, when he woke up the next morning, he couldn't remember what it was.
Oh.
Yeah. And he was so aggravated, and he ended up putting a notepad and pencil beside of his bed. And then if he woke up with an idea, he'd jot down what it was. So he continually got these pieces. Well, then, of course, he started getting engaged in people's energies and using their energy for help getting answers and tweaking stuff and whatnot. But anyway, he built BEST piece by piece that way. Well, I've pretty much done what I'm doing based on that beginning starting point of BEST. And we still use a similar emotion chart, but most of the rest of it is just, I want to call it simplified.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really amazing if you just,
it is simple.
Once I teach you yes and no's, you know, most people get the yes and no's. There are still a few that can't quite get, they don't have faith in themselves enough to get out of the way and let the spirit talk through them. But it's usually pretty simple to get yes and no's. And once you can get a yes and no, you just follow the flow chart and release things. And it's just so simple and easy.
It's very simple and easy, and it's quick. And I like that you can use it. It's so very easy to use it on yourself and really clear things out of your field, which is not so easy in other modalities.
Well, the interesting part of this, it was created to release things out of your own field.
Well, it works.
It wasn't for anybody else. You know, I was working on people, but I was guided to put this together so that I could teach you how to work on yourself.
Yeah,
so it's exactly what. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm looking at these pieces, and as it's come to fruition, and then came the term empowerment. The reason I'm here is empowerment. I'm to empower people. It's like, well, right there's the main piece that I was given to help empower people.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy how it all just, you know, not really to those of us who know now, but in the beginning, it was just pretty crazy to sit and look at all these pieces, and then it falls together in a word. Yeah. It's like, wow, how cool.
It's cool. I love it. Well, thanks for coming on. It was really great talking to you, and I hope that that audience loved it. So
same here. Hope we've shared enough info to shift a bunch of worlds.
Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Ascension and 5D Chats.